Welcome to the 888 Poker Nations Cup, where 6 teams are shooting it out for a top prize of $100,000. I'm Jesse May, and with me tonight in the commentary box is a poker champion and member of the Irish team, Pádraig Parkinson. Good evening, Pádraig.
Hiya, Jesse.
Let's just start things out by a little reminder of how this tournament works. The teams play 6 heats with one member of each team competing in each. Players score points for their team depending on their finishing position. 10 points for the heat winner, down to 1 point for the first player eliminated. At the end of the 6 heats, the total points accumulated by each team will determine how many chips they begin the final with. The final is a tag game where the team captains will substitute players as the game progresses. The winners take home the first prize of $100,000 and the trophy. This is the situation so far after the first heat. Denmark off to a strong start with 10 points, closely followed by Ireland with 7, the USA with 5, and Great Britain, Sweden, and Germany with only 1. They've got their work cut out for them. So that's how things stand. Let's have a look at how these 6 teams line up. Well, Pádraig, Theo Jurgensen has put Denmark in a very strong position. They've still got some powerhouses yet to come, though.
Yeah, but all these Scandinavian players are pretty tasty. I mean, there's probably 20 Swedes that could have played on the team, or maybe 20 Danes could have played on the team, and the 20th guy would be pretty strong.
You kicked off Ireland to a great start, 7 points.
I did. I played really well.
Do you know what the plan is from here? World champion, perhaps, Noel Furlong.
It'd be an interesting move, all right. But I think Noel's a very cool guy, so we're going to keep him for one of the last heats, I think.
A USA, a pretty solid start. Andy Block garnered 5 points, and they've got a deep team from here. Could be Thomas Keller or even the captain.
But anybody they play is going to be pretty good. I mean, they've got Thomas Keller, they've got Robert Williams in, they've got Cathy. I mean, these are all top-class players. I mean, whoever they play is going to be good.
Great Britain, not a bad start from internet qualifiers, and the team very deep from here.
Yeah, most teams would be quite happy to have their internet qualifier finish 3rd or 4th and get a few points on the board for them. But, there are no weak links left now. You've got Elliott, you've got Julian Gardner, you've got Ram, Tony Bloom. I mean, these guys are all world-class players. They get into any team here. So, it's just whichever one of them turns up is going to be favoured for the heat, more or less.
Sweden, very big favourites before this began. Disappointing. Eric Sagström, 2 points. Do they have to make up ground in a hurry?
Well, they have to. I mean, they don't want to be getting into the final with low chips. Like Eric Sangstrom's a world-class player. He's probably one of the top tournament players around. I mean, the Americans really rate this guy. It was a major disappointment for them that Eric would have been favoured to win the heat. I was quite happy to see him get knocked out.
And of course, Germany off to a very disappointing start. They'd hoped for
great,
more
wasn't it?
after Christoph Haller. What are they going to do now? Fire their big gun?
Well, I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do. Maybe they should play one of the big guns now, try and get some points on the board. Or the other thing is, some of these internet qualifiers are a little bit nervous, so some of the teams will want to play the internet guy early, so they're not left hanging around getting nervous.
All to play for here, and team selection, very important. Who have the captains picked? Let's check out who they've selected for tonight's heat.
I picked Jens for the Swedish team today. I don't know why, because I don't know how he plays. He's a dark horse, but he's a wild horse according to himself, and that's the perfect recipe for the devilfish.
For Team USA, I picked Greg Jennison, our online qualifier. He's got a lot more game than people believe, and there's 3 other online qualifiers playing in this heat with Devilfish. Devilfish could easily get too aggressive and go off in this and end up in last place. I like our guys' chances.
Well, I picked Sebastian from Germany today because he feels pretty good and he wants to capture a British fish.
For this heat, I've picked Anders Jensen for playing for Denmark. And the reason for that is that it's our online qualifier. And there's 3 other online qualifiers in that heat, so that's some of the reason why we picked him.
Okay, the reason I'm playing for Great Britain today is because I was the first one to pick. I had to put the name down of our team member first, so I put myself in, hoping that my friend and fellow team captain Noel Furlong would put his name down and play against me, but Noel decided he was going to wait for another game. So instead I'm playing against 4 internet qualifiers and Scott Gray. Scott's a good player, but I think the Great Britain team have got a great chance of climbing up the ladder, so I'm going to be giving him my best shot. Thank you.
I have selected Scott Gray for this heat to play for Ireland. He's very steady, reliable player. He's finished in the last table of the World Series, and we expect him to do rather well.
With a steady hand on the reins is Thomas Kremser from the International Poker Federation, and dealing Marina Kremser and Stevie. And this second heat of the 888 Poker Nations Cup is underway. And Parg, what a result here for the team captain selections. 4 internet qualifiers, surprising?
Not really, the internet qualifiers are probably going to be a little more nervous than anybody else, because this is maybe the biggest day of their poker lives. So most teams want to play their internet qualifiers in a fairly early heat, so they're not hanging around or worrying about it.
Call. Check.
Early position call from Anders Jensen with the King Jack.
Four
Scott
players.
Gray from the Irish team has crept in with the 5-6 of clubs. And we've got a 4-way flop here. It looks like Scott Gray has outflopped them all, although
Bet
Jens
300.
Lekstrom has made a flush draw.
Pass.
Interesting to see what Gray does here. I have a sneaking suspicion he's going to pass. So he calls.
Raise to 600.
Double the bet raise from Scott Gray. Is that just informational?
I think he's just trying to find out where he stands here.
Call.
Jens Lekstrom has peeled off the turn, and Scott might be worried about his kicker as
2
well,
players.
Parg. The diamond, though, would really change things.
Bet. Bet 600.
Swedish player Jens Lekstrom. The 600 takes it on the turn. That was well played by Lekstrom.
It was a little unorthodox. I mean, he's bet called the raise from Scott and then come out betting the turn.
It's sad that it's just 2 professional players playing in this heat, because I would have loved to play more professional players than the internet players. It's 4 internet players, including me, so I think I will advance with a victory in this heat.
The action starts with each player receiving 2 cards face down from the dealer. The 2 players to the immediate left of the dealer post the blinds. They can call, or raise, or they can fold. Once this round of betting is over, the dealer reveals the flop. 3 community cards dealt in the middle of the table. More betting follows, then comes the 4th card, the turn card, and the 5th card, known as the river. Players must make the best 5-card poker hand using the 7 cards available.
We didn't ask you what you had.
It'll be Anders Jensen under the gun this time. And the players beginning with 5,000 in chips. Those green chips, 25 each. The
Raise
black
to
chips
200.
worth 100, and
Pass.
the
Don't want to play
browns
Devilfish.
worth 500
Pass.
apiece. And I believe this is the first chip moved by Devilfish Ulliott raise, and that's the kind of respect that Devilfish has earned here. Everybody folded.
I think most of these online players will be opening shepherd's pie in the back of the trousers. I mean, they've heard of the Devilfish, and they're all frightened to death. They've been thrown into the lion's den, but let's hope I can just gobble them up. I did say gobble them up there, by the way.
Welcome back to the second heat here of the 888 Poker Nations Cup. Haven't seen too much chip movement here. We had a very fast-paced game the first heat, Parg, but do you think it's going to be a little slower here with the internet qualifiers not wanting to overbet their hands too early?
Well, I think Elliot and Scott Gray are probably going to play a much tighter game than you'd normally expect them to play, and that they're probably going to feel out these internet guys and see if there's any chance they're going to start making a few unforced errors.
There was a limp in from Devilfish with the 5-6 offsuit in first position. Lekstrom's playing as well.
You've got to be able to play pretty good if you're limping in with the 5-6 and first to speak. I mean, it's not recommended in any of the books, but the fish is liable to play himself out of trouble just about any time.
At a 300, and the Swede has the better spade here.
It's still a very tough call.
Amazing that Queen High is actually winning this hand.
Raise.
I think we've got a player here, Parg. He is very aggressive, is this young Swedish player.
Well, as you said, the Swedes were pretty bullish about his chances. I mean, this is the kind of play we've come to expect from the Swedes. I mean, they're scary. I mean, there's thousands of them. And they're all really aggressive players. You know, like the Swedes aren't supposed to be the most exciting guys around, but certainly when you give them a pack of cards and a bundle of chips, they can they know how to move them.
And how can the Devilfish call here, Parg? He might have looked back.
But he's no intention of calling here. He's just trying to pretend that he's got a slightly stronger hand than he did have.
That's how you fry the fish.
What if fish says re-raise?
So only a few hands gone by, but Jens Lekstrom has really made his mark on this table. And he is the chip leader now.
This guy is a Swede, which would mean that he's very competitive, I would assume. And after talking to him, it seems as if he's a very fast learner. So we have good faith in him.
It depends on which channel.
Depends if he understood it.
Blinds at 25 and 50. Denmark on the button. Sweden to speak first.
Pass. Pass. Call.
And I think
Pass.
Sebastian Zentgraf from Germany might have trouble getting some
Call.
action.
Check. Three players.
And we're three-way here now. Top pair for Zentgraf.
Check.
And Scott Gray could get himself in trouble here,
Bet
Parg.
125.
Well, I think we're going to see a raise here, so Scott may be able to get away from this pretty handily.
Bet of 125.
So
Quick
he's called.
Quickly called by the German.
Pass.
I think Gray will realise that he's probably behind here. I don't think he'll be firing any more bullets in this pot.
Two players. Bet
So he fires one, of course. I'm amazed I managed to finish second at my age.
400 bet from Scott Gray, and is there any way Sebastian Zentgraf doesn't know he's ahead? There's not very many hands that beat him out there, are there, Parg?
Well, he'd probably think that if Scott had something like ace-10, he might have raised before the flop. So I think he's going to call this for sure.
Call.
He has called. This pot getting big, over 1,200 now, and the Irishman in need of an ace or a 4.
Oh my God,
And
what
he's
a card.
hit it on the river.
This is very unlucky for the German.
Bet 700.
You know, it looks like Scott's either missed a straight or he's got a 10. The last thing he's going to expect Scott to turn over is ace 4.
Bet and called. 3 4s are the winner, and maybe just a bit of inexperience, a bundle of nerves there from the German, Parg, that he didn't raise there and end that pot quickly, and the Irishman the beneficiary.
There's 4 guys in the heat that I've never played with before, so I really have to see how they play and get it. You don't get much time in this, but I'll have to be alert at the start and try and figure out what their games are about before I can adopt a strategy.
And cards about to come out of the shooter here. This hand, it'll be Great Britain. That is Devilfish Elliot on the button, which means Greg Jennison first to speak. He's passed, and Sebastian Zentgraf, who's still reeling from an earlier hand, limping in with the King Jack. Look at Anders Jensen. He's picked up the hooks here, Park.
Call. Call.
Check.
Check.
And he's let everybody in. The
That's
blinds.
a fairly tight play from the Dane. And most people have been quite happy to raise with the jacks.
Check.
There's a lot of straight draws out there. Devilfish has second pair.
Check.
And I don't think Anders Jensen is going to be crazy about his jacks right now.
I think the Devilfish will probably think that there weren't any good aces out there, seeing as there wasn't a raise before the flop, so he'll be quite happy that his 6 is good.
It's a massive bet, Part. 500 into 250 pot.
Yeah, it is a bit big. You could probably have got the same amount of information for 250 or 300.
Jens Lekstrom having a dwell up.
Pass. Pass.
And just stand to Anders Jensen now. Little does he know what good shape he's in.
Well, he may work out that because the Devilfish didn't raise him before the flop, that the Devilfish is unlikely to have a good ace.
Raise to 15.
That's a nice play. I mean, you can call these guys internet qualifiers, but I'm telling you, this guy's come to play it.
He wants to tell his grandson he raised the fish.
Let's hope he didn't see the handshaking.
And when he does play with his grandson always wants to be the Devilfish. And now, Anders wanted nothing more than to put the torture in on the Devilfish, and he's done it.
I think the fish is doing a bit of play acting here. He's probably sorry you didn't bet a couple hundred on the flop and could just...
My grandson.
Yes. Do you have some?
No.
No.
Well, I might get one.
Knows though.
No, yes.
Well, there's absolutely no way the fish is going to put one more chip into this pot.
What a great play from Anders Jensen, this Danish internet qualifier. He said it was a thrill to be playing at the same table as a Devilfish, but that hasn't stopped him at all.
Well, I'm sure the Devilfish won't be too thrilled about playing him. He played the hand a little bit unorthodox, limping in with the pair of jacks, but he certainly, when he got it into his head that the Devilfish didn't have an ace, he was quite prepared to put his chips in. You gotta like it. I'm sure his grandson will be absolutely loving that.
And I'll tell you who else is going to like it is Martin Wendt, the Danish captain, along with the Danish team.
I said to him that you just have to play your own game, and I didn't give him any advice about the game because I wanted to make it the biggest experience for him.
Everyone still remaining. 6 players at this 888 Poker Nations Cup heat. Germany on the button, and Germany is the short stack at this stage.
Have to show the cards.
Pass. Pass.
Well, Sebastian does not take advantage of the button raise on.
Call.
You can fold if you don't want to get in troubles.
Not, he's got Devilfish in the big blind. It's going to be a tough
Raise
position
to
for him.
250.
150.
Means 200 more.
6.
This is pocket pair versus the
that a
over
string
cards. There's a re-raise by Anders
Raise to
Jensen.
650 and call.
Called by the Devilfish. This is a big pot, Park.
Well, it's a pretty aggressive play.
2 players.
No ace, no jack, but 3 overcards for the pocket pair. Will the Dane
If
fire?
you bet, he will. Oh my God.
Devilfish does not look happy about this.
This man may be 70 years of age, but he's playing like a 21-year-old. I mean, absolutely fearless. You gotta like this.
Well, the last time the Vikings invaded Great Britain, it was very successful. And Anders Jensen showing absolutely no fear. He's come up against the Devilfish twice and hooked him both times.
If he can start re-racing the Devilfish, which I'm 99% sure that it doesn't matter if Devilfish has a pair of queens or down, he's gonna lay it down. So that's basically what I'm hoping for. If I have a chance to talk to him, I want him to re-race the Devilfish.
Most of these professionals are used to playing, for $1 million tournaments and $10 million tournaments and $60 million tournaments, and the team prize here is 100,000. But everybody's more nervous than when they're playing the World Series.
Here comes Sebastian Zentgraf. It needs to get Germany back into the hunt.
Pass.
Folding up shop.
Yeah, Christoph Heller had a
Raise to
pretty rough
150.
time in the first heat. He didn't do too much wrong, but he can do too much now and finish up at 1
Raise
point.
to 800.
Raise to 150 from the Devilfish and a re-raise from Scott Gray. This is the first time we've seen these two really tangle tonight. And Jack 9 is severely outdistanced by the Ace-King now, but it's Lekstrom who's dwelling up.
Pass.
And I think Lekstrom's only just passing the time. He wasn't
Pass.
seriously considering calling with an Ace-10 there.
If I had a lot of chips, I'd take that Ace King on, but I ain't got a lot of chips, so I'm gonna have to throw this away. Looks like an Ace King bet. You know,
Parg, he just called Scott Gray's hand. He said if he had a lot of chips, he'd take that Ace-King off. He was exactly right.
Something like that.
You know, the Devilfish has got an absolutely unbelievable record of putting guys on hands in this particular type of structure. It's amazing. I mean, he's probably right about 90% of the time.
Big advantage when you know what I have, though.
This is the second heat. And a couple of these teams in desperate need of points. Denmark on the button in the best position after the first heat. They could really solidify their lead with a strong showing by Anders Jensen. Here comes Greg Jennison. Pocket pair called for 100.
Call.
And he's in against
Check.
two titans of the table.
Scott was quite happy to take the flop there with the sixes, trying to flop a set and maybe bust someone.
Well, it looks like Elliott has outflopped him.
300.
And this is going to be very tough for Scott Gray.
I think he'd probably take a card off here, see where he's fixed.
Raise to 800.
Or then again, he might just raise. This is a very tough call for Elliott. He's only got an 8 kicker with his 7.
300 has become 800. Greg Jennison can take the hint, but will the Devilfish lay down?
I'm pretty sure he'll pass here. It's a very, very tough call. Scott's represented a hand a little bit stronger than what he's actually got. I don't think the fish will want to gamble too many chips at this early stage of the tournament.
Well, there's not many hands a Devilfish can beat here except for a draw, I guess, Parg.
Well, Gray's getting to do a bit of thinking here. He might now be working out. Oh dear, I might be a little bit behind. The fact that the Devilfish has given this so much consideration.
He has laid it down, and does Scott Gray know how slick and slim Ireland was in that pot? He's raking, that's the important thing, and there are no easy pickings out there for Great Britain.
He's a world-class player. He finished 4th in the world in 2002 and was very, very unlucky not to win the thing. They call him the Iceman because he can be very detached from the whole thing. He probably plays a little tighter than the rest of us, but he'd be quite prepared to start moving the chips around when he has to.
You're full steam ahead again.
There's 30,000 in chips on this table, and they're still rather evenly spread. Although Sebastian Zentgraf has done his bit to try and get back in the
he's
hunt.
limped in with the
Raise to
kings.
600.
Oh, this is great, Parg.
Pass.
Devilfish is charging the limper's tax, and he is going to get surprised in a hurry. Is it re-raise or call and open the trap up wide?
I think he's going to re-raise here. He'd be quite happy to pick up the pot's big enough already.
I do believe Zentgraf is jumping up and down. This is what you call jubilation.
Must be about a queen.
German style.
Devilfish trying to talk him off it now.
He's going to find it pretty tough to talk him off these two kings, believe me.
Fold or raise is the question.
Do you want me to tell you the answer?
What is it?
Tell me what you got.
A raise.
Wow.
These are the first words that Sebastian Zentgraf has said, and Germany now
Raise
with
to
the
1200.
re-raise, 1,200.
Call.
Well, it was a minimum, just about re-raise,
more than
Parg.
that, though.
600 more, and there's almost no card that can come off that's going to give the Devilfish
Well,
the
an
best hand.
ace might give the Devilfish a chance to steal the pot. There it is.
Scary.
Though the Devilfish isn't altogether sure that our German friend doesn't have ace-king for his re-raise.
I can't check, bro. I Can't give you any free ones.
You gotta like this.
This is amazing.
This is a great play from the fish.
This devilfish sensed it.
Zentgraf may beginning to rue now that he didn't make it a little more before the flop. So with the kings against the king jack, who can blame him for trying to milk it?
How quick does the hunter become the hunted? Zentgraf facing a $1,000 bet with an ace on board. Little does he know he has the devilfish locked up and thrown away the key.
Well, all he has shown just why he's one of the best in the world at this. He's taken king jack against a pair of kings, missed the flop and won the pot.
Oh, a few chips.
You won't want to count this man out. What a big swing between Germany and Great Britain there. They'll be going wild in the green room.
I'm in against a pretty weak lineup, I think, apart from Scott, who plays, he's a good poker player. So really, it looks like me and Scott against the internet players, and I would have liked it to have been a lot better lineup because it means more beating a better lineup, but it's poker, anything can happen.
The stacks are rather even on this table, but you wouldn't know it from the action we've seen. Bluffing all over. And on the button right now, Jens Lekstrom, the Dane to speak first. 100 is the bet.
7.
Raise to 700.
Here comes the fish. He's picked up the big
Pass.
slick again.
And he's put in a very, very big raise with it.
Pass.
Great Britain marching on. And all of a sudden is the devilfish, he's sitting straight up in his chair, Parg. He's gained confidence.
When he's playing with full confidence, he's very, very, very hard to beat. Mike Sexton says that the best performance he's seen in the WPT was Elliott's performance in Mississippi a couple of years ago.
And Tunica. Scott Gray still in the lead, but the devilfish up by his boot tails. And I believe he's raised it again. Early position. Pocket eights, and here comes the Swede. So we see heads button here.
8 more.
look at his
Raise
face.
800
It's great.
more.
I mean, this guy is having the time of his life here, and he looks like he's constipated. What a face.
Just check that for him, Tommy. See how much he's got.
What's the devilfish going to do? He's asked for a countdown. I think the devilfish has slightly more, but there's not much in it, Parg.
It'd be a spectacular play with a pair of eights here.
Well, the devilfish could raise all in, get called, and still only be in a 50-50 spot.
You know, generally speaking, when you raise with a pair of eights and you get re-raised, you've either run into an overpair or the very best possible result is you've got ace-king. Or indeed, with the Swedes play the king-queen, a bit like the ace-king anyway. They're quite happy to play the king-queen while they're waiting for the ace-king.
The devilfish asked the question. He wanted to know how deep the stacks were. Now he has pulled off the flop. This pot 2,500, and if the ace or king doesn't come down, the devilfish has still got the best, but he can't